Well, that was fun. We didn't get to do a full-time report after San Jose Atlanta in 2018, so, we're about a year and a half late, but that's what we're going to do tonight, because that's what happens when you're under quarantine, right? It's Soccer Down Here, Postgame Show, Jason Longshore, Jon Nelson, Jarrett Smith, Mike Conti. It is a cavalcade of stars for you this evening.
Looking forward to this one.
Oh, man. Where do you want to start?
Well, can we talk for a minute about how unusual that day was in general before we even got to the stadium?
Oh, yeah. This is actually really good because it's completely kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. It's funny, and Darren had made a reference to this on the AMA that he did on Reddit. Atlanta United have like 30 or 40 front office people out there in San Jose. They kind of made it like I don't want to say a vacation, but a little reward trip for everyone in the front office. And, there were a lot of people on the trip, and they all went up to San Francisco the night before the match. I think, Jason, you, me, and Doug had that really good dinner at that Mexican restaurant by our hotel.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
the rest of the front office went up to San Francisco, I think, for like a Culture Club concert or something like that.
It was a Culture Club concert.
And
wow.
They did not get us late checkout at our hotel. So basically, the match wasn't until 8 o'clock Pacific time. We had to check out of our hotel at like noon and just kind of hang out in the lobby for 5 or 6 hours before going to the stadium. And that was fine. I mean, we found ways to pass the time. We had a really nice chat with Tony Annan. And it's funny, San Jose... I don't know if they wanted us to know this. They were interviewing a very, very prominent name in soccer for their managerial vacancy because they had just fired their manager. They had just sacked their manager. And a very, very notable, familiar person came walking through the lobby at one point, and I think was kind of horrified when he realized that he had been spotted because we all knew what he was doing there. He was interviewing for the Quakes job, and I'm not going to give his name because he didn't get the job. But anyhow, we're sitting around we're sitting around the lobby all day. And what was it, Jason? Around like 1 or 2 o'clock, our phones start going crazy. Tata Martino was leaving. What?
It was a little bit later than that because it wasn't that long before we were getting on the buses to go. I want to say it was like an hour before we were about to leave.
Exactly. But, someone, I forget who had the report, but...
Oh, it was Jorge Ramos y Subanda.
Oh, yeah. Yes, right. Yeah, it was like the 10 alarm breaking news
the
thing.
The Bomba de Pereira.
That's exactly right. And
yes.
We're like, what is going on? Tata? We haven't really heard anything about this. And, for the next hour or two, I think you and I, Jason, were kind of discreetly trying to gather information without coming out and asking people directly, but it was a very, very weird vibe going to that stadium because there seemed to be a lot of smoke attached to that rumor. We had heard rumors for weeks. So Tata he isn't. If he does, we'll go here. If he doesn't, obviously he's staying in Atlanta.
I think we were still at the point there where we knew he was out of contract at the end of the year, but nothing had been decided. I want to say there had at least been talk that an offer had been made to him, but we hadn't heard anything concrete on, he's going to leave and he's going to go to the Mexican national team.
No, not at that point. But anyhow, so, you're sitting around the hotel all day. You see a guy that they try to sneak in the back door of the hotel to interview for the Quakes job. Now
unsuccessful.
Now you're getting these rumors about Tata leaving, and then we get to the stadium, and the pitch is in awful shape. Hideous shape.
Well, but you remember all the birds on the field before it started,
Yeah, no, that's right. Like, the seagulls or whatever were literally eating. It was like a Hitchcock movie. These birds are just, pecking away at the pitch and destroying it. And you just kind of got the sense it was a very, very weird day to begin. I think it was also the day where we found out that Maroon 5 was going to do the halftime show in Atlanta at the Super Bowl. A lot of people were fired up about that. It was just a very, very weird day. And I guess in hindsight now, we shouldn't have been surprised that it turned out to be such a weird match, because each event that occurred that Wednesday leading up to the start of play just got weirder and weirder and weirder.
It was something. You want to hear what the radio highlights sounded like?
Yeah, let's treat it like the post-game show that never was.
Okay. I'm going to try to make sure I have these in the right order. This is after it was 2-0 San Jose, and things were not looking good late in the first half. Tito Villalba with a lifeline.
He'll play it back to Gressel. 4-on-3 as Gressel comes down the right wing. Plays it over to Tito on the left side. His drive. Score! Golazo! Tito Villalba from 20 yards out. Atlanta United has new life just before halftime.
Okay, I think that was the first time that I made a weird noise in the background.
I was going to say, was that a woo out of you?
Yeah, it was.
Woo.
That one I actually know. No, it was a lot more than that. It was not a tennis. Woo, that's nice. It was, wow, that's a hit. What a goal. And it's better, like, looking back at it now, God, that was such a good goal. Mm-hmm. First time the way he hit that, that's an amazing strike.
I think it was goal of the week, wasn't it? Or maybe even a goal of the year finalist.
I think it was.
And if Tito doesn't score that, it's over. I mean, it could have very well have been 3-0, 4-0. Atlanta United, and Jason, I saw your tweet earlier tonight. You made a good point. Atlanta United was more in it in the first half than I remembered. It's been a year and a half now, and I'm with you. This is the first time I've watched the match in its entirety since we called it. I did not remember the chances being that even. I also think the first San Jose goal that went to VAR, I mean, from our angle, up at the top of the stadium behind that goal, I really, really thought that ball was dribbled over the end line. It went out. I guess they did not see a clear and obvious angle on VAR to overturn. So, in a way, I'm thinking, well, this match should only be 1-0. It balloons to 2-0, and Atlanta United needed a lifeline before halftime, as you said, Jason. And thank God Tito gave it to them, because that goal would prove to be very, very vital as all the weirdness unfolded in the second half.
Yeah, I had no idea that there would be multiple lifelines needed in this one, but there were, and this is where things got really, really weird.
And now Bazakos blows his whistle, makes the
no goal,
and it's got to be a penalty. It is a penalty.
Yes.
So we go from 4-1 to potentially 3-2. An incredible swing here, and Joseph Martinez is walking the ball up to the penalty spot. Incredible.
All right, let's try to walk back through this thing.
Yeah, go break this down.
Man, if you watched it tonight and you don't remember this play, you're going to be incredibly confused about how everything went down.
You shouldn't be, though, because the laws of the game were pretty much applied correctly.
Oh, they were 100% applied correctly.
But 1 minute and 40 seconds. I mean,
yes, exactly.
It was 1 minute and 40 seconds. Did you guys hear at any point that it was 1 minute and 40 seconds?
No, I did not, Mike.
Yes.
How long was it?
And I
totally heard it a bunch of times.
I sat there and counted 30 seconds from the chicken wing handball to the ball hitting the back of the net. 30 seconds of game time.
A chicken wing handball, which, by the way, could have been a red card.
Yeah.
And I think Tata even made a point about that.
Yep.
Like, if there is ever such a thing as a handball red, it was that. I mean, it was absolutely flagrant. Like you said, Jarrett, chicken wing, where he's intentionally making his silhouette much broader in an attempt to knock down the ball, handle it in the penalty area. I mean, that could have been a red card. And had it been a red card, you could have been looking at, maybe a 5-3, a 6-3 win, something like that, the way everything was unfolding.
All right, I'm glad I already cracked open a beer to try to explain this one. Okay, So we were as far away from that handball as you could be. It was in the far left corner from our broadcast position. The TV announcers were not on site, and that made it a lot more difficult for them. But I didn't realize until tonight that they actually spotted the handball. Like, they thought it was a handball. They said he didn't think he was looking. And
that's the wildest part about it. And they got it right, and they just ignored it.
And then they forgot it. I saw what I thought was a handball. I didn't realize how good Magnus Eriksson was with the chicken wing maneuver to try to, hide it. But I thought it was a handball. I saw the reaction from the Atlanta players all going to the AR. And then, it's 30 seconds later, ball's in the back of the net. When Bazakos didn't immediately, make motions like he's going to goal, I started kind of thinking through this in my head. Like, okay, first off, he's acting like he's already got a little bit of information. So he's not looking at the offside. The offside was close, but it wasn't that close. We actually had a great line on that because that was right in front of us, almost directly in line. So when he's already starting the conversation right after the goal, I'm working backwards to the handball. And you heard on the clip, like, we had already talked about it. We had already broken that down, that he's not looking at the offside. There's nothing there. He's looking at the handball. And if he calls the goal off, he's got to bring it all the way back for a penalty the other way. And I went and I found this. I did a lot of digging tonight to find this tweet. D Palacio 16 won Twitter that night because he's the one who told the story about leaving the bar, getting into the car, hearing us on the radio saying, hey, wait, they're reviewing to see a handball. It's going to go the other way. And he ran back inside. It was D Palacio 16. So you rock D Palacio 16.
Yes.
But madness. I mean, what I don't understand on the TV call, a couple things as it kept going and going and going and going and going and going. You could tell immediately just from watching the monitor that what was happening when he called the goal off and you see Joseph with the ball under his arm walking to the penalty spot. You have to know what it is there. There's no.
Well, he immediately points. The second he waves it off, he immediately points back.
It's a little unclear at that point because you're not. If I remember from what we just saw, I don't know if you could exactly tell where he was on the field at that point. I'll give him an out there. But once you see Joseph with the ball under his arm walking like towards the goal, you kind of have to know. And they handled it correctly. I mean, there was no chance for the play to be stopped. It was 30 seconds. It wasn't a minute 40 in game action. The on-field review was incredibly fast because it was obvious. There was really no need to take a whole lot of time there. It's a handball. And they got it 100% right, and they did it as fast as they possibly could. You can't stop the play in the middle there. If you didn't call it initially, you don't know, you're going to need to go take a look at it. You got to wait till the stoppage and play. It was handled right.
And that's one of the larger hooks in all of this is that you can't just stop it. The play has to play to its logical conclusion, minute 40. And then it comes but that's the thing. It's like you have to let the play out. You can't just stop it if you miss something and then go backwards. But that minute 40/30 seconds later, that's all it was.
It was 30 seconds. There was no spot to stop it. I think there was one attempted break from San Jose that Atlanta blocked, and then it came back, and then they broke again. There was no chance to stop the play. It would have, because if you stop the play, and this is why you don't, if you stop the play there, and then the ref goes to look at it, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing there, you're taking away the flow of the game. That's what we don't want with VAR. And this was a year into VAR. I get it, but Mike, this is something we talk about all the time. Like, we put a lot of work into understanding the rules and studying the process and making sure that we can explain it correctly. If you were watching on TV, you were going to be really confused by how this all went down.
Well, and exactly. And again, they were not on the premises. We were. So Definitely. We had a little bit of an advantage there. But the thing, and I think we got this across as well as we could have, and you heard it in the highlight. As soon as Bazakos waved off the Quakes goal, there was only one possible outcome to that, and that was a penalty. Because the initial trigger to go to VAR, as you know, there are 4 triggers for it. Is it or is it not a penalty? Is it or is it not a red card? Is there a situation of mistaken identity, or is there a foul or something in the build-up to a goal-scoring play? So if Bazakos walks away from the monitor and wipes out the San Jose goal, it can only be because there is a penalty. Again, I'm a little surprised Magnus Eriksson wasn't sent off and all that, but that's beside the point. But it's something that just adds a little bit to the legend of this bizarre Five Stripes After Dark match that we had, because as so many people joked about and continue to joke about, Atlanta United went from trailing 4-1 to winning 4-3. Something that I believe still does not have precedent, at least in Major League Soccer, ever since. So that added a lot to it. But the funny thing was, that was only the start. Well, let's even rewind a little bit before that. The Baco goal to make it 3-1, that could have been one of the best goals of the year in Major League Soccer. That slaloming run that he had, and when he scored that, you're thinking, all right, man, this is not going to be our night. Maybe the team is in disarray because of the Tata rumors. No one can keep their footing on this god-awful pitch. We can't go across the street to the San Jose airport to fly home. We've got to go all the way up to San Francisco. That was another thing that Una Mas caused, which we can get into later. So maybe you're thinking it's just not your night. And then you get this very unusual sequence that sends Joseph to the spot, and now you're thinking, you know what? Yeah, maybe they can get something out of this. Maybe they can get a point out of this and stay alive for the Supporters' Shield. But the way we got from point A to point B at the end of the night was just so weird, really, starting with this sequence.
Yeah, so at this point in our highlight package, we have had a goal called back. So it is, what is it, 3-1 San Jose after that goal's called back. Joseph Martinez walks up to the spot, and it sounded like this.
Waiting for the whistle from Bazakos. He gets it. Scudder steps up to the ball, strikes it, and scores! 3-2! Incredible swing!
Thing was only starting to heat up because it was a few minutes later, 4 minutes to be exact, and I think this might be another one where I have a really stupid reaction. This is what it sounded like.
And Almiron now sends it up to Joseph, back to Almiron, who dribbles into the attacking third, ahead to Joseph at the spot, taken down at the spot, penalty! The play continued.
Oh, wait a minute.
Miguel put it in. Now he pointed at the penalty spot, Miguel put it in, as play continued, that would be advantage, and Atlanta United has equalized. I've never seen anything like that.
That laugh was from San Jose. That was not me right now, because that whole sequence was madness.
I will go to my grave. I will go to my grave insisting that Fotis Bazakos was calling a penalty there. His body language, it was so confusing, and I think it confused everyone on the pitch. And I even tweeted a photo of it, a still shot. He is running to the spot, pointing at the spot, before the ball even gets to Almiron's boots. Now, he may have yelled play on or whatever. I mean, clearly there wasn't a whistle because play continued. But everyone stopped. It's kind of reminiscent of the Hyndman goal in Nashville this year when the offside flag comes up. There's no whistle. Everyone kind of stops, and suddenly the ball rolls back to Hyndman, and you have a golazo. I mean, this wasn't a golazo. It was a tap-in goal, But I will go to my grave insisting that Fotis Bazakos was running to the penalty spot, pointing to it, signaling a penalty.
So that's what everybody thought. Go ahead, Jarrett.
So background on this. I'm still working at 92.9 at the time when this happens. I had done updates during the day. I was sitting in the control room with with producer extraordinaire Oren Romaine watching all of this. And at 3-1, at halftime, at 2-1, I went home. It's like, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to have a drink because this isn't going well. At 3-1, I was like, okay, cool. I'm cracking open even more rum. And I'm already laughing when you have the 4-1 gets flipped to 3-2. By the time this happens where he points at the spot and then it doesn't really matter and then it gets finished by Miguel anyway, I'm in the floor with enough alcohol that I didn't need to be anywhere near, broadcast of any kind. Thank God I didn't have to work the next day at the station or anything. I mean, at that point, I wasn't fit for human interaction.
It was crazy. I mean, that just getting to this point was completely and utterly crazy. Let's go ahead and
thing, to this point, this season even we're not even at the crescendo yet. What the hell?
I know. It was just building. We've had crazy. We've had a goal of the year candidate. We've had a crazy VAR situation. We've had another crazy referee situation, and then we get. Was this the first stoppage time winner in Atlanta United history? I think it was.
Stoppage time winner, yes. Not stoppage time goal to get a result, but stoppage time winner.
Yeah, I think it was the first stoppage time.
That would be Sporting winner. Kansas City, Jacob Peterson, to get a result, I believe.
Well, Tito had the one before that against Orlando in 17 at home.
You had Tito against Orlando, you had Jacob Peterson, and you had one against Philadelphia, didn't you?
I don't know if that was stoppage time. It might have been.
Yes, I believe it was. Tyrone Mears heading it.
Oh, the lunging Van Persie-like header?
Yeah, if you want to call it that. But
from 35 billion yards away.
This was a much, much better header, and this won the match. And, of course, it doesn't want to play.
Well, hey, while you're getting it queued up, when Almiron scores to make it 3-3, I am convinced at this point Atlanta United's winning. Because if San Jose would have gotten anything after Joseph had made the penalty, it would have been totally against the run of play. They did have one good chance, and Jason, you tweeted about it. Chris McCann had to make a nice play. They had a pretty good chance right around the 90th minute. But quite honestly, after Almiron scored to make it 3-3, I'm convinced at this point Atlanta United's going to win the match. It's just a matter of when. And it actually got a little bit deeper than I thought it did because Atlanta United, you could just tell, they had all the momentum at this point. Crowd is totally out of it. Crowd is confused. Referee is confused. English language TV announcers are confused. And Atlanta United's just putting their heads down and trying to find the game winner. You felt like it was coming, and finally they got it. Is it ready to go now?
Yep. Here we go.
Nearly dispossessed by Youngberg. LGP slides to send it up to Barco. Ezekiel playing it through to Almiron, now left attacking third. Almiron's cross for Joseph. Score! They're going to do it!
So I was a maniac in this game, I'm realizing, and it kind of scares me. I don't think I'm usually like that. I hope I'm not usually like that, but man,
hey,
that was all over the place.
That was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, Leandro, I don't think gets enough credit. For starting this counter, and you heard it in the highlight. A lot of attention is correctly placed on Barco's ball up to Almiron. But Leandro's the guy who gets this counter started. And then by the time it's on Almiron's boots, you know the cross is going to find Joseph. And by the way, San Jose, childish defending. I mean, take nothing away from Joseph, but I mean, this was Orlando-level defending. Joseph basically all alone at the penalty spot. Perfect cross, perfect header. It's like at that point, I think the San Jose fans just wanted to go home. The In-N-Out burger in the parking lot was about to close, and everyone had just had enough. But you got to remember something. Atlanta United, at this point of the 2018 season, had zero margin for error for Supporters' Shield. No margin for error, and this was one of the precious games in hand that they had on New York Red Bulls. If Atlanta United had not gotten 3 points out of this match, the Toronto thing would have been irrelevant. Atlanta United would not have been playing for the Shield that day. So this is something that I think kind of gets lost in the mix of all this. Atlanta United was in the stretch of a brutal week where they had to play in a freaking microwave in Commerce City, Colorado, where it was a bazillion degrees outside, and they were able to basically have that match taken care of in 15 minutes. They go straight from the stadium to the airport to fly to San Jose to train or do a regen day on Sunday and then train Monday and Tuesday. And then the reason why we chartered back from San Francisco is because they had to turn right around and play Saturday night against Real Salt Lake, which was a really, really tough match. And Atlanta United I think one of the more underrated performances of the entire 2018 season was that match against Real Salt Lake.
I completely agree with that.
Considering what they had been through all week and the lack of time to train and all the travel and the conditions they had to play through in Colorado with the heat and the altitude, and then they were able to give Nagbe a little bit of a rest in San Jose, which was helpful. Obviously, was Nagbe even back from his injury yet? I'm trying to remember now. He might. No, he wasn't at that point. So you're not really even in a position where you can rotate, and every match mattered at that point because Atlanta United, they were absolutely in the discussion to get to 72 points. You had Joseph chasing or trying to build on his goal-scoring record. That match-winning goal, by the way, was his 30th goal of the season, which no one remembered. That was because it got lost in the mix of everything. So, I mean, we kind of laugh about it now, and Five Stripes After Dark, it got kind of nutty. But that was actually a really, really critical comeback win for Atlanta United because it kept them alive for everything, all their dreams and goals in 2018. And look, I mean, they probably would have won the Cup even if they had gotten a draw or even lost in San Jose because it was just things unfolded in such a way where, you just kind of felt like they were a team of destiny. But at the time, if Atlanta United even gets a single point out of that match, the Shield might be gone right there. And this put them in a position where they control their destiny for the Shield all the way to the end.
All right. I'm sure we've got a few tweets, John. You want to fire those off?
I will fire them off. All right. Alyssa Martin, and we can probably give this to both you and to Mike. Would you guys have to consider this one to be the strangest regular season match the Five Stripes have had in their history?
I'm trying to think of a stranger one, and I'm coming up blank. I mean, you had the crazy VAR, you had the crazy play-on advantage, and you had a stoppage time winner after a bad start. It wasn't as bad as I remembered it, but it wasn't a good start. Yeah, this has got to be it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The match they played in Minnesota earlier that season when Leandro got sent off and they had to park the bus for, 60 minutes basically. And, you're playing basically in Arctic conditions where it's a 40-mile-an-hour wind and it's 10 degrees and you have papers blowing off the fourth official's table onto the pitch and everything. Like that. There were weird moments in that one, but no. I mean, this one takes the cake. I mean, and someone had a good tweet earlier tonight. There were CONCACAF-ish elements to the officiating of this match.
Felt like it. Except they got him right. They did get him right.
Yeah, they got him right. But man, I mean, bless their hearts. I mean, it took a minute, didn't it? No, I can't think of one weirder than this. There have been some weird ones. There have definitely been some weird ones, but nothing quite like this. That was such a weird day. And again, it was because it was such a weird day. Because I think there was kind of this genuine thought in the back of our heads as they got down 2-0 and 3-1. Is this club distracted by all the Tata rumors?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, no, they weren't. And even further, the Tata thing didn't resolve itself for several weeks after that. But at the time, that was something I think we were both genuinely wondering.
So there's a couple things. Go ahead. There's a couple things that came out of this that I don't want to forget about.
Go for it.
Remind me later about the video that Atlanta United put out after the game, because we have to talk about that. And we got to talk about why we didn't take off to fly back until 3:47 Eastern Time because we had to drive to San Francisco. Okay, go ahead, John.
Oh, Antonio just wanted to remind us all 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Yes.
Oh, my God. I mean, just give it up. It was like I was saying before we came on the air, 3 or 4 days earlier, our fans all loved Nico because, someone played Julian Gressel down the right wing, and he goes, and Julian's got the ball, and it's about to be 3-0 because I think some people had kind of made the assumption that he was teasing Colorado a little bit. But, look, it's tough. I mean, there have been things that I fixated on match calls, and, Jason has had to kind of calm me down once or twice over the years, which is fine. It does happen. When you're off-site, you really we've called matches from off-site. It's just different. You don't get the feel for the match. If there are things you don't see sometimes, on that Unimas broadcast, they only had really one replay of Eriksson's handball. So things do happen in his defense. But I mean, at some point you got to give it up. you have a historic finish and a wild
16 minutes later.
And it's kind of malpractice to the game, to use Jarrett's term, when you fixate on that and you don't really appreciate what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, I'd never heard the whole game back like that. And wow, I remember being on the bus as we're driving to San Francisco, waiting to get on the charter flight, and the highlights were put out by MLS from the broadcast, and I think it was on the final whistle, like in the 2-minute package, where he was still talking about the VAR and basically like acting like San Jose got screwed. I remember being very angry hearing that because of just how hard we worked on trying to make sure that we explained that VAR situation. I think we got it all right. I think we nailed it in the explanation, and it's just I think you have to put in that time to understand the process. And the process was new, but that's, one of the pet peeves that I have is just when you have people who don't get the process right. I mean, I'm with you, Mike, on getting fixated on things, but this was one where it was like complaining about the process. It was handled to the T. Like they did it exactly right.
And this came up again in Bridgeview last season on Leandro getting sent off, where I think there was a little bit of a disconnect again with some of the people observing the match, not understanding how that dog-so rule worked. One of the things I appreciate about you, Jason, is that you really do study the laws of the game. And I think you have a better comprehension of it. I'm not going to try to embarrass you, but you have a better comprehension of it than just about anyone. And it is kind of, and I'm sure soccer purists probably feel this way hearing me call a match, but it is nails on chalkboard sometime when you know the law, you know the explanation, and you hear someone just get it totally wrong. Because I think it does a disservice to our profession.
Yeah, it leads the viewers and listeners down the wrong road, and I think a lot of the issues in general with VAR are from situations like this, where the crew handled it right, but the complaints are coming out, and people will hear that and say, yeah, well, this was wrong, it took too long, and you got to stop the play. But you can't, because if you do, then people freak out. So I had never heard how much it continued, but I remembered hearing it on the little 2-minute highlight package that was immediately produced and being like, wow, that's not cool.
Patrick Cox has come in this evening, and he says that tonight, in listening to the highlights, it was some of his favorite Longshore reactions, and he's also missed Jarrett from most of the SDH shows.
Jarrett, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just enjoying all of this. I will give a contrarian weirdest game.
Okay.
It's not a game that people want to think about ever, but last year's game in Chicago is still one of the weirdest ones because it didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was coming. And you go to Chicago against a team that was kind of reeling and just get mollywopped. I mean, you catch a hammer shower. It was one of the weirdest games. The only great thing out of that game was watching Miles Robinson literally run through the defense like Gale Sayers.
Yeah, that's right.
You also didn't have Joseph that night, and
True.
I'm not saying that's the reason why it worked out the way it did, but I mean, you had just a nightmare scenario where you give up a goal pretty much right off the kickoff, and then you have a sending off. Joseph's not playing. It was kind of like an avalanche. The more I think about weird games, I think, again, you kind of have to nominate another San Jose match from this past season.
Yes.
Where you have Chris Quick Trigger Penzo in the middle, sending off a player, I think, 20 minutes into it. Atlanta United playing 11 on 10, really unable to find that go-ahead goal for most of the match. Then you have Matias Almeida sent off. Then you have Wando sent off.
From the bench.
From the bench. Wando deserved it from what we heard, but Almeida, we think, was celebrating something that his goalkeeper did.
He's just exalting a save.
Well, we don't know what Almeida said. Wondolowski admitted to what he said on Twitter, and yep, he deserved to get sent off. You can't call the referee a cheat with any other words around it. So you're going to get sent off for that.
Yeah.
He put his hand up. We don't know what Almeida did. Maybe he said something. I don't know. It seemed weird.
I think you would also have to nominate the Philadelphia match from 2018 at home when you had Bedoya sent off in the first 10 minutes, and then
Medunjanin with
going
the nutty.
yellow, red because he went crazy. And there are a couple. I mean, that goes back to my initial answer to Alyssa's question. Like, there have been some weird ones, but this I think by far was the weirdest.
Every San Jose game is weird. 2017 was wild, July 4th. This one was bonkers. 2019 was bonkers.
Yeah, that was a game Anton Walks started really for the first time, and you replaced Tyrone Mears on the right back role.
Yeah, that was the first start he had.
Yeah, because I made a really bad pun about Tyrone sits Anton Walks. And
wow.
And he scores the game-winning goal. I mean, it was a weird night. It was hot and miserable. It was a July night in Atlanta. Yamil Assad basically goes fishing for that second yellow card for San Jose. I forget who drew it.
Oh, it was Kofi Sarkodie, who should have been sent off the first time because it was one of the worst tackles I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, should have been
any
straight
level.
red
on the far side. Yeah,
yeah, like 2-footed, flying through the air. I mean, like studs up. It was incredible that wasn't a send off. And then the second yellow, Yamil definitely worked for it, but it was deserved at that point. That was the night, too, that I realized that this whole thing was going to be a little different than, I think, some other MLS teams, because that was the night that it was July 4th. They had fireworks after the game. Got out of the stadium a little bit late. We didn't do a post-game show at that point, but I'm driving home, and my phone starts blowing up. I see it, flashing next to me in the car. I was sitting in the seat, and I'm getting texts from people wanting me to go on the radio station and talk about the game, and I pulled into a McDonald's parking lot and sat there for like a half hour and called in and talked about the game. It was craziness.
Oh, and
good job not incriminating yourself about using your phone while you were driving.
No, I wasn't. It was sitting in the seat. I saw it flashing.
Job.
The hands-free law also did not exist in 2017.
Correct.
But I did not have it in my hand. It was good.
No.
McDonald's parking lot in Hapeville.
Yes. And Alyssa Martin also has brought up the Rev Wedding as a candidate, if that one hasn't been mentioned.
Good one, too.
Man, see, the Galaxy game that year could have been the same thing if they hadn't called the dogs off.
Yeah.
The one where Jermaine Jones got fouled by Tito in what should have... I don't know if Tito got a yellow for that or not, but he should have because it was a pretty rough foul.
I think so.
And then Jermaine Jones just snaps.
Kicked him in the back.
Yeah. Jermaine Jones just kind of did Jermaine Jones things.
Very Joey Barton of him.
Yeah, it happened. What else we got on Twitter, John?
Elliot Beaven wants to know if you and Mike saw the reaction from San Jose's broadcast crew during this match.
No.
No.
They were. Remember, they didn't have TV because it was a Nunamas game. Their radio people were there, but no.
I don't think they were next to us where we could see them.
Even if they were, to Jason's point, some booths, there's glass between the booths where we can see into the booths next to us. San Jose was not set up that way, so no. And quite honestly, I'm not really paying attention to anything other than what's going on in the pitch, even when it's, the final minute of the MLS Cup final. I'm really kind of locked in, so I'm not really looking at reactions one way or the other. I mean, sometimes I'll see Jason give a little fist pump out the corner of my eye, but that's all I tend to notice.
Yeah, that's happened a few times.
Well, and then the rear naked choke that I got from Jarrett during MLS Cup.
Well, that's a whole different conversation altogether.
Don't be within arm's reach of me, which is, to be fair, a very large radius that you need to be outside of.
Check.
Sure.
As John sees this "don't panic" forearm flying into his forehead.
I didn't even. It wasn't even that. It just dropped right on top of me, and it would have been the quickest tap in the history of the sport.
That'll be another fun one. If that match ever gets replayed, that would be a fun one to do one of these for, because I do have a lot of really vivid memories of that whole day and that night. And I do remember. I think even before I made eye contact with Jason, I think I made eye contact with Jarrett when that happened, and I'll never forget that because Jarrett was very emotional, as we all were.
Yeah.
And that would be a fun one. If the club picks that one down the road to replay, I think we would have a lot of fun breaking that one down.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Look, 28-3 was real fresh in a lot of people's minds.
Absolutely.
And there was, I think, that kind of feeling, even when it was 2-0, that kind of little nagging feeling in the back of your head that's pulling at a neuron in your brain saying, this isn't safe, this isn't safe.
You might have had that.
Oh, I did have that.
I didn't.
I had that until, God, it was in the 80s. It was after the 80th minute where I went, okay,
when you and I both went into the radio booth at that point, because we wanted to listen to Mike and Jason call the ending.
Yeah.
And it was during that sequence where there's about 10 to go, and then we were watching the two of them go at it.
Well, I'll
Honestly,
tell you,
the second goal,
Martino,
I wasn't worried about it after that.
Tata Martino wasn't scared either because he had subbed off Joseph and Almiron. So
one of the most baller moves.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Curtain calls.
Yeah, that is the mic drop of mic drops.
Gustavo is listening.
What up, Gustavo?
He says, this game will always be remembered because we didn't deserve to win it, and we won it the way a champion should win it. I went from maximum sadness to maximum joy. We, the Atlanta United fans, became adults in 90 minutes with a terrible ref and controversial emotions. It was worth it.
I want to speak to that for 1 second, because I do think the 2018 Atlanta United team did get a couple undeserved results. I thought they got an extremely lucky draw at Yankee Stadium, where New York City hit about every square inch of woodwork in the second half of that match. I don't feel like this was a lucky result. I think Atlanta United, first of all, the quality gap between the two teams was very, very evident. I think, again, it takes a championship caliber team to play through, as Gustavo said, a bad rep, poor field conditions, the exhaustion of having to play at altitude a couple of days earlier in extremely hot weather. I don't think Atlanta United was lucky to get that win. I thought, especially in the final half hour of the match, they severely outplayed San Jose. It's not like San Jose missed a bunch of chances or choked or anything like that. Atlanta United took it away from them, I thought.
Yeah, it was a closer match watching it back now than I remembered it being. I think it would have felt at the time, like, oh, man, Atlanta just had a stinker. But if I'd went back and watched it at the time and Atlanta had lost, I would have been like, man, it was actually pretty close. You had a shot cleared off the line. You know, you had a couple just weird goals go against you. Vaca with a goal of the year candidate. I mean, it was a weird night all the way around. But I think Gustavo's right in the sense that this was the one that felt like, all right, because you hadn't had this kind of win yet.
No.
Really ever. I mean, the Orlando games in 2017 were a little different. You hadn't had one like this where you really came back to win a match. This was the one where I started to think, like, okay, this is a real title contender because they've got a little bit of grit to them. And it's just a little different. It was a different kind of win that I think they needed.
And also remember, you had a couple matches prior to this one in the 2018 season where you left some points on the table. Toronto looked like you had that one. And then they come back, and who was it? Javinko, extremely late equalizer, deep in stoppage time. New England at Foxborough, iffy penalty, but you don't get a win, you have to settle for a draw. Oh, God, there was another one. Dallas on the 4th of July.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You're up.
The
you're up
Akindelli.
2-1, and you, I mean, I don't want to say you choked, but you choked. So, you know, Atlanta United, as good as they were that season, on their way to breaking all these records and everything like that, they had not really shown us yet the ability, other than what they did in Minnesota, which was a bizarre match on its own. They really had not shown us yet that in crunch time, they're not going to fold and have a mistake or an error or something like that they're going to be able to find, you know, that clutch play. That you saw again with Leandro starting the counter up to Barco to Almiron to Joseph. We had not really seen that in a clutch moment, and you know, fortunately, we didn't really have to see it again because everything from that point was pretty straightforward for that team, other than the disaster that they had in Toronto.
They kind of had the fits and starts in the middle of the season. So I mean, you had the draw in New York. You went to Columbus and won right before the little bit of a break for the World Cup. Came back, draw with Portland. You beat Orlando badly. Then you lost in Dallas. Then you won in Philadelphia. You drew with Seattle in an awful game. You beat DC. You went to Montreal and won, but then you drew with Toronto, the one you were mentioning. Then you beat Columbus.
Jeez, that Seattle game set the sport back 5 years.
Yeah. Then you won in Orlando. Then you got beat by DC 3-1 at Audi Field.
Right.
Then go to Colorado and win after the international break, and then you're in San Jose. So it was like up and down, up and down, up and down.
Well, and you're just talking about MLS. I mean, remember after that win in Columbus. I mean, that match against Chicago in the Open Cup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where all you have to do is beat Chicago, and then you're playing a USL team to get to the semifinal, which you would have hosted, and they came out and just stunk. I mean, just were absolute, just not with it in any way, shape, or form, in a very cynical, negative match against Chicago. So you're right, Jason. Like, and you know, the Portland match where they got the draw, it wasn't a bad draw, but Nagby got hurt. Oh, you know, that sucks. And then, you know, Toronto, you really feel like you left points out there. Columbus, where Joseph tied the record, you kind of have to come on late to put them away. The Orlando game down there, where Joseph broke the record, Brad had to make the save of the year to keep that from being a draw. So I'm with you, Jason. I think it was the Colorado match that really kind of sparked it, and then it was San Jose, and then it was Real Salt Lake, that great performance on that Saturday night in front of 70,000 people, where you kind of realized at that point, okay, all right, you know, the ship's not taking on water anymore. These guys look like they're going to be okay. And yeah, what happened in Toronto was a disaster. But I think we got the feeling even that day that was going to be an outlier performance, in part because Miguel Almiron was hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like that gave that team a pass, but at least it made what happened in Toronto a little more understandable.
I think those two games back-to-back, the win in San Jose, coming back on short rest, cross-country, and dominating RSL in a 2-0 win, put those together, and that's where I really felt like this was a title-winning team. And Gustavo's tweet reminded me of the moment on the bus where we were watching the footage that Mikey Alfano got on the field of the celebrations. And I think the players could kind of feel that was a turning point too, because those were not just, wow, we didn't expect to win that the way we did, but we won. It was kind of a galvanizing thing. And what cracked me up about that whole moment was two things. First off, Joseph and Brad kept somehow finding one another after everybody's running around hugging each other and screaming at one another. And the reason why the video had no sound from Atlanta United was because they were screaming lots of things that you could not have go out from the team Twitter account.
Colorful metaphors.
Yeah, but what that led to, which is really funny, is that led to Jay Riddle's "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us" video, because there was no sound on that celebration video. That was where it started.
Wow.
I would say as well that this kind of performance was the thing that I know we've talked about off air. I don't know how much y'all have talked about it on air, but this is what I've been waiting to see from LAFC. Is show me cojones. When you get punched in the face, when the cards are stacked against you, even in a game where it makes no sense for it to be stacked against you. Like, I get new manager bump. That San Jose team was just so bad, and they were they were rolling. They had the momentum up until the VAR situation, and that's, I think, what I'm still waiting to see from LAFC. And I'm still in a kind of a prove it mode.
They showed it against Leon, though.
You give them it to Leon, but that's what I had been waiting on for 2 years from them that they had not shown me. And if Leon is that turning point for them, Leon might be their San Jose. They're kind of backs against the wall. What are you going to do about it? And Atlanta had that in year 2. LA maybe just picked theirs up, but there's something to be said for being able to show that you can play like that. And like you said, not just a game where it's a comeback, but a game where it feels like you're trying to crawl up river.
Yeah, it feels like you pulled one out of the hole a little bit.
Couple from Michael Valverde. We got a couple more in the queue before I'm to remind you about a 3:47 a.m. takeoff. Michael Valverde says, I forgot how incensed the TV play-by-play commentator was on the no goal, but the penalty the other way and the VAR call. He keeps saying it was 4-1. Funny when you know what's coming.
Yeah. Definitely that.
And then Michael says, it's hard to believe most of the players on the field for this crazy After Dark win are no longer with the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this game. You get that turnover, and when you start a team, you're getting everybody pretty much on the same type of contract length. And Darren and Carlos signed a lot of guys to multi-year deals with options to have them together as long as they could. And it just so happened that you hit on a bunch of guys you wanted to keep together for as long as you could. But you can't do that once you get into year 4. And that's where it starts to get hard. And that's what we've saw, in this offseason and going into this short season so far.
And Michael also says that he remembers that at Tito Villalba 15 came up so big in the series of games around this one.
He had the clutch gene, that's for sure.
He scored against Colorado. He had the goal against San Jose, obviously. I don't remember him scoring against...
no, he did. He shouldn't have gotten credit for the goal, but he got credit for the goal against Real Salt Lake, the one that was off the post and then back off the back of Nick Raimondo.
Off Nick Raimondo and in. Yeah, that's right. That was Tito.
That's not supposed to be a goal for him, but, you take it.
You'll take it. I mean, that was a good stretch. Tito had a good summer. I mean, remember, he had been hurt. And I feel like after he finally got healthy, he had that goal in Columbus in June before the World Cup break. And it was kind of a hint of what was to come for Tito. Again, in a substitute role. But Tino was very, very important for that 2018 team. And I know the 17s will have memories of that, and we appreciate what Tito did. But Tino was way more important for that 2018 Cup run than I think what he gets credit for, because he had been out of the starting lineup by then. I don't think people remember how clutch he was, especially in those late summer months going into the fall.
Well, two of his last 3 goals in 2018 were massive. I mean, the one against San Jose that kept you going, and then the one to close out the home leg of the Red Bull series. Those two, along with that goal in air quotes against RSL, were his last 3 goals of the season, and 2 of them were absolutely massive.
Then the last note on Twitter that we have, and thanks to everybody who was listening to the post-game show here. It comes from Sean Vergara. He says, I'm so glad our club is helping us through this difficult time, missing attending games, but soon we will get back out there. I hope you guys are all doing well. Stay safe. Thanks for continuing the conversations for us soccer fans.
I'm glad the team put this one on. This was a fun one. I kind of wondered what it would be like, because, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I haven't watched a ton of old games. It kind of just makes me frustrated that we don't have games currently, and I miss it. So I was kind of wondering how excited I would be about this. It was fun. It was fun to watch it back, and it was fun to see all the reactions from everybody else watching it back, and fun to talk to you guys about it.
Oh yeah, it's fun to catch up in these kinds of moments with you guys. It's good stuff, and it's good that we can do this sort of thing and hear familiar voices and look at familiar folks who are part of it.
Yeah, and look, we're going to be back soon. This has obviously been it's amazing. We were at the Azteca a week and a half ago, and it feels like it's a year ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's only been a week and a half. We're going to be back, I give Major League Soccer a lot of credit for taking this week by week as information comes in, not rushing to cancel things that might not need to be canceled right now. And it just shows you that they have a real commitment to playing as many matches, if not the full 34, as possible this year. And there's financial reasons for that too. But we're going to be back. Everyone just needs to stay positive. It can be very hard sometimes, and it's hard for me on a daily basis. I mean, we talk about taking it day by day. I feel like I'm taking it hour by hour, but these kinds of distractions, I think, are really, really helpful. The NFL's been taking a lot of heat this week. I'm glad the NFL started their league year on time.
Yeah,
because,
me too.
Man, if we didn't have that stuff to talk about, I'd probably be in the fetal position somewhere, just, speaking in tongues. I would have no idea what to do with myself. So, we need things that bring us some normalcy and bring us some distraction. And I really think we're going to be back. I got an unexpected text from someone on the team last night, just checking in on me, which I really, really appreciated. And he said, "Look, we're going to be back before you know it." And I really believe they are. And I think, again, let's not be judgmental of Major League Soccer and the decision makers. Let's not judge, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. They are doing what's in the best interest right now for their players, their staff, and for the clubs. And, I don't think they're trying to peddle false hope or anything by suggesting that they're going to try to get back within 8 weeks. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I admire the fact that they are not rushing out and setting timetables that may not need to be set yet, because we've got a long way to go in the fight against this virus, and we don't know how things are going to look 8 weeks from now compared to where we sit tonight. So I feel like we'll be back, and hopefully really, really soon. And I think it's really important for everyone to just stay positive, and let's keep these kinds of conversations going, because they can be really, really helpful.
Definitely that. the last story I think we haven't told about this one. So it was kind of a weird situation where we flew into San Jose with Mike mentioned it, a bunch of the team staff came, a bunch of the back office staff came out for this, and flew in the day before and flew into San Jose, which is literally right next to the stadium. Mm-hmm. Well, since Univision, or I can't remember if it was Unimas or Univision Deportes or whatever, moved this game to 11 o'clock Eastern, that put us past the curfew. So after all of this madness, we couldn't take off from San Jose because they didn't allow flights to leave that late. And we had to drive, about an hour to San Francisco?
Yeah, about. Yeah. And remember, this was supposed to be a 10 p.m. start. It was supposed to be a Fox Sports South broadcast, and it got flexed to Unimas. And because they did that, they moved the kick time to 8 o'clock Pacific. The curfew that Jason is talking about for flights to leave out of San Jose's airport is 11 p.m. If this match had stayed on Fox with a 7 p.m. local time kickoff, we could have literally walked across the street to the charter terminal, gotten on the plane, and could have been home. I think we landed, Jason, at 7 in the morning Atlanta time. We could have been home at 3.
I think it was later than that because I remember, so I don't sleep on planes. I don't sleep very well at all on planes. I think I might have actually slept 15 or 20 minutes on the flight for this one because, we were wired after this game. And get on the bus, and everybody's wired. Staff, everybody is going nuts. And it starts to hit you a little bit after all of that adrenaline, flows out, and you're on the plane, and I started to get a little tired, but got home. It's like, all right, I'm going to go home and go to sleep. And people are tweeting at me and at Soccer Down here from 7 o'clock on. I think people who had went to sleep early and got up and watched it back or saw the highlights were like, you've got to have a show this morning. You've got to have a show this morning. No, you've got to have a show this morning. So no sleep. Got home. We started the show, I think, at 10 o'clock because I think we got home. I think I actually walked in the door probably about 9. I think we landed probably closer to 8 o'clock maybe than 7. But we did a show
one of those
at 10.
Times Jason just walks in and is like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not sure Jason was alive.
No, I don't remember that show at all, but I know I slept after that finally.
See if I can find it.
No, I don't want to hear that one back. I've already been thoroughly embarrassed by losing my mind on the broadcast. I don't want to hear what I sounded like hours later with no sleep.
No, that was a definite overreaction show for the ages.
This whole game was one for the ages. Okay, just crazy. But I'm glad it got everybody together to watch it tonight. Looked like a lot of people were. My Twitter was flying with a lot of people that I haven't seen talking about the same things in a while, which is really cool to see. Everybody kind of back in, at least as normal as we can be for a little bit, watching a game together. So that was cool. That was a lot of fun.
Yep. And we'll be back at it on Monday, and doing our first separate watch along was fun. I know that we're looking at doing more of those here while we're waiting for everything to get back to normal and the new normal. But when we know what I would send us suggestions, by the way, for the next watch along.
2010 World Cup final.
Man,
one of the worst
relive
games.
That one?
Why?
One of the worst games you can, because that one is primed for a full MST 3K style.
Oh man, I don't know about that.
It's so bad it could be fun.
I'll tell you.
It starts with a missile drop kick. It doesn't get sent off.
I'll tell you what might be fun would be from the same World Cup, not USA Algeria, but USA Slovenia might be a lot of fun to do.
That's a good call.
You talk about weird and the referee being at the center of weird. That one was weird, and the referee had a shocker. So I have some thoughts on that one that I've been keeping on my chest for 10 years. I would nominate that one, but we'll take suggestions too.
That's a good one. I definitely one that's on my list that we'll do here sometime in the next week is the USA Trinidad game from 1989, where the U.S. qualified for the World Cup in '90. Just because those old games are kind of fun to watch back now.
Yeah.
And the broadcast quality is pretty entertaining at times. So we'll get into that one for sure. What's that?
Ghana, Uruguay. Or Luis Suarez.
That would be a good one if we can find it.
Swats it down and gets sent off to save his team in the World Cup, and it works.
That would be a really good one. Send us suggestions at Soccer Down here. We'll try to knock a few of these out this week. I think we have a pretty decent routine on how to do it now. So let us know. We might, if our garlic bread warlord friend is able to hang out with us on Monday evening, maybe he'll pick an Italy game for us to do a soccer over there watch along with.
Oh, I can convince him to do 2006 Italy France.
I'd be down for that.
That's convinced. A great one. That is a good one.
I just want I want a camera on him the second the headbutt hits. I just want to see.
That's another one with just a massive WTF moment.
Yeah, yes. I think Uruguay and Ghana actually exists in its full form.
Okay.
So that one might be on the list. And one last note from Gustavo before we sign off for the night. He says, I'm very happy to listen to the full SDH team with the J3 reinforced by Mike with his crazy and loud play-by-play. Jarrett's return helps, too. I was watching movies, but I leave it. We need soccer.
Hey, I co-sign. It's great to hear Jarrett again. It's really, really cool to hear. And should we be surprised? I mean, it's an Earthquakes match, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Very nice. Man. Well done.
See, the secret with the Quakes is you can't believe. If you have faith, then nothing will make you happy. But if you go into it with no expectations other than, maybe it'll be fun and stupid, you get 2019 Earthquakes. But if you go into it with expectations, you get 2018.
You get Michael Starre. My bad.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you get that guy. We got a crazy one tonight, so thanks, y'all, for joining us. Thanks for hanging out watching the game. We'll be back really soon with more watch-alongs, more SDH on Monday. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.